Good afternoon. Ooh, it is on. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This afternoon, at our opening meeting of the Convocation for new faculty and professional staff, I'm especially pleased that we have the opportunity to have Governor Paul Patton here to make a presentation for us. Governor Patton has been quoted as saying, "I would rather be a leader who makes a difference in the lives of people of Kentucky than a caretaker whose footprints leave no trace in history." There is little question that the governor is being a leader who is making a difference in the lives of people in the state of Kentucky. He's doing more than that. He's providing an opportunity for those of us in this state to chart what higher education is going to look like in the next century in the state of Kentucky. And he's allowing that opportunity for charting it in a way that enables us to recognize the dual needs of the state while still responding to roles of higher education that are so important in a society that sees education as undergirding everything that it is and can become. The governor consistently has tied the themes of economic development and education together as an answer for the state of Kentucky and for all of those who would have us reach the future that is so important to us, to our children, and to all of those who will shape tomorrow. There are a lot of things I could tell you about this governor, but it would seem to me that he has had plenty of press in the last few months, and you've had a chance to read about him, and you probably know a great deal already. So I'm not going to take the time to do that, but I am going to just make one other comment. Most of us, Governor, on this campus have become familiar with some of the major elements of the reform piece that has been the result of the special session of the legislature. And as we have talked about it on this campus, it would appear to us that it's a time of great opportunity. Not many governors have chosen to make higher education their mark for whether they stand or fall. This governor did, and anybody who would take on higher education as your mark is a very courageous person. But more importantly, I think what the governor's done is created for us the opportunity to fill in some of the pieces in ways that we create the Western Kentucky University that we want it to be, need it to be, and that will meet the needs of our student in this state. We're delighted to have Governor Patton here with us today. At the conclusion of his remarks, he will have a bit of time to take questions from any of you who may care to answer them. Saying no more, Governor Patton, we're delighted to invite you to come forward and speak in front of the faculty of the best university in the state of Kentucky. Come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Burch, and thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for asking me to be with you on this first day of the new academic year. And if you will indulge me just a little bit, let me try to give you an overall projection of what I would hope to accomplish as the governor of this Commonwealth, and how that your job is a very integral part of what we would hope to achieve. To summarize what our vision for Kentucky is a Kentucky where economic opportunity and quality of life is more closer to the national norm. And of course, when we talk about those things, we talk about the entire gauntlet of state government. First, it is vital that we have a state where people feel safe in their homes, that we have streets that are safe. So law enforcement and the criminal justice system is a very important part of making a safe community. It's important that we have a clean and healthy and safe environment in our regulation of industry and individuals to make sure that we balance the needs of our commerce against the needs of a clean environment. It's a very important part of building that quality of life. All of the different things, basic social services, to make sure that we have a compassionate society where people can meet their basic needs when they cannot provide for themselves. All important part of building a society. But when you get right down to it, fundamental to being able to have that society is to have people that have the ability to earn in our great competitive free enterprise system a wage adequate to support them in the life that we envision as the great American lifestyle, and to be able to support a government that we need to be able to have the kind of society that we want. And so growth of the economy is a very vital part of being able to have that kind of a society. And so the state government has a lot to do with this business of us organizing ourselves together through government to be more efficient, to be safer, and to have a more efficient economy. State government's a very important part of that. In our system, we have a federal government that has certain responsibilities, local governments that have certain responsibilities, and sort of the state government. And in state government, education is our prime responsibility. 65% of our general fund dollar is devoted to education. Infrastructure is also a very important part of state government, making sure that we have the roads, the community facilities, the water, sewer, and other things that it takes to make a good, healthy, safe community, as well as a viable economic community where businesses can grow and prosper. So state government is very, very much involved in trying to create the conditions where a free market economy can prosper and create good economic opportunity for people. If we in this country have learned anything over the last 50 years, it is that governments cannot solve all of our problems. And that in general, we're generally better off if we can have a relatively free market system where individuals can solve their own problems through their own creativity and their own productivity. And so it's important that state government play its proper role in the short term and in the long run. And in the short term, we must create an environment where businesses can be profitable. Let us be frank about it. Businesses are not charitable organizations. They're in business to create a profit for their stockholders. That's their purpose. And so we have to accommodate that, and we have to recognize that state governments can put impediments on businesses that keep them from being less profitable and yet not create a corresponding gain for their citizens. So state government has to balance that, and as we got through our first session of the General Assembly, we began to look at the bigger picture. And I will say that we are viewing our program from an 8-year term. Doesn't mean I'm going to get elected for an 8-year term, but it means that we have the luxury of looking at things over a longer period of time than governors in the past. And I think it has caused us to look at our job a little bit differently. We sort of think that in the range of 20 or so years, it would be possible to bring our economy and our quality of life a lot closer to the national norm. And we hope that in the hopefully 8 years that we have the opportunity to serve in this capacity, that we will be able to lay that foundation. It's not something that we're going to do in a 1 year or in a 4-year term or even in an 8-year term. It took us a long time to get in the condition that we're in. And I personally believe that Kentucky, which if you will review the record, was a rather progressive state before the Civil War, a state right in the most developed state in the center of an exploding interior America, the center of commerce and religion and culture and medicine and education. And yet we have found ourselves to fall behind in all of those categories. And my reading of the record shows that after the Civil War, Kentucky didn't have the courage to invest in the future, didn't have the courage to invest in education and in infrastructure, and over the ensuing 100 years, we fell from one of the leading states in this country to one of the trading states. As recently as 1900, Kentucky was 13th in the nation in population. If we go back to 1850, Louisville was larger than Chicago. If you go back to 1950, Louisville was about the same size as Atlanta. So what I have seen in that 100 years following the Civil War was a state that lacked the vision and the courage and the commitment to look for the long-term future. And that's what we're trying to do. In the short run, in order to create a more positive business attitude and still provide basic protection to injured workers, we attack the workers' compensation problem that I won't dwell on, but quite frankly, for the last 20 years, our workers' compensation system had been designed and run by the special interests. And the special interests had taken care of themselves, and not the worker, and certainly not the company that was paying the bill. And so that was something we felt that had to be done, and it took a lot of political strength to get that done. But that was a short-term fix. In the end, the productivity of our economy will depend upon the productivity of our workers. It is important that businesses have a positive environment in which to operate, and that on a state-by-state basis that our state-imposed cost of doing business, that is, the difference between doing business in Kentucky and doing it in a neighboring state, it's important that that stay competitive. But in the end, if a business doesn't have productive workers, it doesn't matter how little it costs them to operate in your state. In fact, you could have them operating in your state cost-free. And if they don't have a productive workforce, they won't be profitable. So in the end, and over the long run, it is the state's responsibility to produce a productive workforce. And in this day and age, we're talking about mental productivity. We built a great nation with primarily manual labor. But there are countries all over the world that are willing to work longer and harder for a lower standard of living at manual labor than are Americans. And we cannot compete on that battlefield and maintain our increasing standard of living that we have been accustomed to throughout the history of this nation. And so we must compete with mental power, and that means education, plain and simple. And so, as we look at the long-range future of Kentucky, it is sort of automatic that we have to look at education, and certainly our administration was not the first to do that. Going back to the 80s, there was an awakening of the realization of how important that education was to Kentucky and how badly we had neglected education. And it culminated with the enactment of the Kentucky Education Reform Act of 1990. And while it is not perfect, and while we certainly are committed to continuing to modify that program and improve that program, I can tell you that from a national perspective, Kentucky is viewed as a state with tremendous foresight and tremendous courage. And what I hear at state governors' conferences, what I hear other states talking about somehow trying to achieve, I find that by and large we have already achieved that in Kentucky in our elementary and secondary school program, at least as far as what it is that we have committed ourselves to do. But as we have found in elementary and secondary education, the passage of a law does not change a system, because education systems are composed more than anything else of people, individuals, and institutions, and institutional memory, and institutional inertia. And when we ask people to spend 5 or 6 years of their life to prepare themselves to be a teacher, and then we tell them to change in one summer, that just because we passed a law doesn't mean that that's going to happen. And so even 7 years into an education reform of our elementary and secondary schools, we're still trying to learn and grow and change and modify, because we are on the leading edge, and we're trying to make those changes in these institutions and individuals that will in fact implement what it is that the science of education and how children learn has told us is the best way to go about this very important process of building that basic fundamental foundation upon which a specific higher education can be built. So to me, it is logical that as we move along this path of changing fundamentally the way that our elementary and secondary schools function, that we should begin to look at our system of post-secondary school systems, because that is where the specialization occurs that causes this society to function so well, and in my opinion better than any other major society in the world. Now, first of all, let me try to re-emphasize again that neither I nor the people with whom we worked on this proposal in any way try to discount the value of a traditional liberal arts education. It is absolutely necessary that in any society that we have a broad base of our society educated in a way that they understand the bigger picture and how we got here and how that we as a society have to function if we're going to have that society that will last over time. So the liberal arts general education always will be a vital part of the mission of our institution of higher education. The problem is that we don't have a great big problem with that element of our education system, and therefore it doesn't get talked about as much as some of the other things that we have emphasized. And some people interpret that to mean that we do not appreciate that element of a post-secondary education or its importance, and so I want to assure you that we do. But there is also an occupational element of most people's post-secondary educational experience. And that occupational element of the educational experience is absolutely vital to the function of our society. And that is the thing that we were trying to focus on, to make sure that this entire system of post-secondary education that we have evolved over the 200 years of our history refashions itself to solve the needs of today's society and to address the needs of today's society. And it depends on the people in this room and the people like you throughout this Commonwealth to make it work. We have not changed post-secondary education in Kentucky one bit to date. But we have done some things. We, I believe, as a society, based on the vote of our elected representatives, our legislature, have made a commitment. We have made a commitment to support higher education on a level which would lead us to that kind of an establishment that we must have in the future to meet our destiny. And we believe that we have established a framework of governance that will improve our ability to get there. But we are depending upon the people that run these autonomous institutions to make it happen. And it is very, very important that we in Frankfort understand that we don't run higher education. Now, we run elementary and secondary education. We, through our laws and through the Department of Education, we have a recipe. We have a 900-page law book that tells exactly how you're supposed to run a grade school and a high school and a school district. And we've probably got 5,000 pages of regulations that tell how you handle the money and how you will do all the details. And that's not what we have done with higher education. We have rather established what is now 9 autonomous public institutions, highly autonomous, and our challenge is to get those autonomous institutions to operate efficiently in a statewide system. And I believe, after careful study of the subject, that that is theoretically the best way to operate a state system of post-secondary education. You know, some people use super boards and they direct everything from the top down. We use a coordinating council, and our coordinating council, in our opinion, was pretty ineffective to the result that we had autonomous institutions that really didn't see their place as part of a statewide system, but rather viewed themselves as an entity unto themselves to pursue whatever destiny it was that they felt that they could pursue. And with most institutions, that destiny is to get just as big as you can get. And so that was what we felt was wrong with our system. The lack of these institutions being able to coordinate themselves to fulfill a statewide purpose. And as much pride as you have in this institution, as much as this institution is a vital part of the society and the economy of Bowling Green and Warren County, you still are an element of a state-supported system to serve the entire state. And your mission is still, in my judgment, to serve the entire state. And folks, the work to be done is so vast that there's more work than we can possibly get done. And so the fundamental focus of our effort is to somehow or the other maintain the autonomy of each individual institution and still get them to focus their resources and their efforts on fulfilling a part of a coordinated system of higher education designed to meet the needs of the citizens and the people of Kentucky. They are the ones that we are supposed to serve. And those are the ones that I would hope that you would always keep foremost in your mind. It is impossible for you as individuals to not be primarily concerned about your own welfare and well-being. It's natural. It is natural for this institution to be focused on its future and its well-being. But it is a little more difficult, and yet all the more important, that this institution and you as individuals focus on the overall needs of the people of Kentucky and where your place in that need is and how that you can best help be a part of that need. It's not up to Western to do it all. There are 8 other institutions out there that have their mission. It's up to Western to do its part of the mission. And let me talk a little bit about that. I have characterized post-secondary education into 3 general categories. One being a research university where original knowledge is found and technology created and economy started. And we don't have an institution like that in Kentucky. We do not have an institution like North Carolina has. As I've often said, 40 years ago, North Carolina made a commitment, a long-term commitment, to building research capacity to create that economic engine that can drive an economy. And 40 years ago, North Carolina and Kentucky were so close together that it's scary. Statistically, the same geographic area, the same population, same level of education, the same agriculture-based economy, and yet North Carolina made a commitment to excellence in education, particularly higher education. And I believe that their progress today is a direct result of that, and I sincerely believe that had Kentucky made that commitment 40 years ago, we would be much closer to where North Carolina is today, but we didn't. But just because we didn't make it 40 years ago doesn't mean that we don't need to make it now, and we have made that commitment. And a part of that is to, in the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville, create nationally recognized basic research universities. But now we still have this tremendous need to educate all of the people of Kentucky. And I'll come back to the regionals in a minute. The opposite end of that spectrum is the community-based education as represented by our community colleges. And our research led me to conclude that in this country, since World War II, there's evolved a new kind of education. It's a community-based education. It's a combination of the old junior college, the liberal arts, two-year liberal arts college, and the technical school. And that unique need is for that kind of education can be different from one part of the state to the other, depending on the economy of the need of the region and the needs of the people. And that particular brand of education needs to be much more responsive and much more able to respond quickly and much more oriented toward the specific needs of their region. And it didn't need to be controlled by the big bureaucracy of a university, on the one hand, with the community colleges, nor on the big bureaucracy of state government, on the other hand, with the technical schools. And so I believe that the combination of joint management without merger is the best compromise that we can come up with in the short run to take the institutions that we have and put them organizationally in a way that we can better meet that need. And let me say, that's about all. If we're going to maintain autonomy, that's about all the state could do. In fact, the governor, even though I'm committed to higher education, my ability to influence higher education is pretty limited. It's limited to about three things. One, putting the money in the state budget adequate to do the job, and even when I do that, the legislature has the final word. Second, it is to lead the public to change the basic laws that establish the framework under which these institutions operate, and we've done that. And the third is to appoint the trustees that actually govern these universities. And in fact, we've just completed that process for this year, and today I'll be announcing the two people that will be appointed to the Western Kentucky University Board of Regents. So the governor and the government's ability to directly impact these institutions is fairly limited. But we have established that unique framework for our community college system, community-based post-secondary education system. And then we come to the regionals, and the regionals are those institutions, in my judgment, whose mission is to provide quality post-secondary education, baccalaureate and master's degree education to every Kentuckian, wherever they are and whatever their station and situation might be. Wherever it was, because it really didn't matter where Western was located here or in Elizabethtown or in Madisonville or in Owensboro, wherever it was, because we didn't commute more than a few miles to school back in 1906. We lived, it was residential, right in the community. But the world has changed since 1906. In this day and age, we should have, and in my opinion, we must have, quality baccalaureate and master's degree education available to every Kentuckian. And that is, in my opinion, the role of the regional universities. We must never, ever, 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 ever forget that the traditional student, that young adult, generally just out of high school, is the foundation of our four-year college system. And we must always provide this residential atmosphere where that collegiality can build us into a greater society. That's always going to be a vital, vital part of our university system. But now it must be larger than that. We must also provide for that non-traditional individual, that adult who, for whatever reason, did not get the education that they needed in the traditional age, or because of changing circumstances, needs to supplement the basic education that they received in the traditional age group. And that individual, as now, can no longer come to Bowling Green and move into a dorm and become a residential student, because they're already established in a community, they have a job, they have a family, and so we have to make this education available to them. We have to make it available to them physically in their community, where at all possible, and through the latest means of technology and communication and dissemination of information, we have to make it available to them wherever that they are, through the vehicle that is commonly called the virtual university, whatever that is. And to me, it's virtually every medium of education beyond the traditional classroom where the professor lectures to the individual student body of 20 or 200. And so we have given the primary mission of establishing the virtual university to the regional universities. And I know that you will be able to do that job. I expect that we will have expansions of our extension campuses. I expect that we will have expansions of our technological capacity to take education to our people. And one other additional mission of the regional universities will be to establish a field of excellence where they are nationally renowned. And the objective of that is several-fold, but specifically it is to build a commitment to excellence. It is to give this institution something in this community, something that it can be the very best at, and that we can take pride in nationally. And it is to exhibit to the rest of the nation and to the world that Kentucky is a state that values excellence. Because 20 or 30 years from now, we hope that the University of Kentucky will be viewed as a great research university. And the University of Louisville will be viewed as a great, respected, urban research university. And then Western and Eastern and Murray and Moorhead and Northern and KSU will in one area be known nationwide as a center of excellence. And cumulatively, this will demonstrate that the people of Kentucky, it will demonstrate to us that we can achieve excellence. And it will demonstrate to the rest of the world that we do value excellence. So those are what I view to be the role of the regional universities in the various elements. And I know that you all can make that happen. But I want to emphasize it will be up to you to make that happen. And I want you to take the responsibility seriously, as I know you will. Because I know that you know, but I want you to know that I know that cumulatively you and your fellow teachers around this Commonwealth have the most important job in Kentucky. More important than that of the governor, more important than that of the legislature, more important than that of the executive. Because this business of discovering new knowledge is what has made this country and human civilization so great. And this business of transmitting that new knowledge to the next generation is the very foundation of civilization. And you know, we think that this will continue forever, and that we will just continue to build on the base of knowledge and broaden that knowledge to even larger and larger segments of the population, but that is not a given. In fact, once in the history of this world, we did go backwards. We had a high state of civilization and knowledge. And because we could not organize ourselves through government to keep our commitments, we went into the Dark Ages. And it has happened once. And unless we continue our commitment to education, it can happen again. So I think that it is my responsibility as your governor to try to convince the people of this Commonwealth of how important it is, and how much that we must keep our commitment, and how important it is that we support financially a very, very important part of enabling you to do your job. But then, in the end, it is you and your fellow teachers across this Commonwealth that will do the job. And I know that you take pride in it, and I'm here to tell you that I understand how important it is, and that all of the people of Kentucky are depending on it. Again, thank you for your invitation, and I'm pleased to work with you. Thank you. I talked so long, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry, I've got about 5 minutes worth of questions, but I wouldn't be.
Stay right up here.
And don't worry, be a little quiet. As I tell Jim Ramsey, you don't have to worry about embarrassing me. You can be confrontational. I don't mind.
Any questions? Over here.
If you will really look at what we did, we didn't tackle that problem of duplication anyplace. We put that on the Council of Higher Education. That is a politically difficult thing to do. No, but let's look at the other thing. Listen, we identified one program that's being offered by 5 universities on the master's degree level, and they had 9 graduates. Now, somehow or the other, through a virtual university, and obviously there were 2 people in 5 different communities that won that program. We still have to make that program available to them, but we need to do it in a different medium. So the whole business of who offers what has been in the past and will in the future be decided by the Council on Post-Secondary Education. The basic problem was that nobody listened to the council, and the Council of Higher Education, and we hope that they will address that. But those things need to be done based on an actual, is this more efficient way to do it? And so we didn't address that in any capacity, but we have established a framework where those questions should properly be addressed. And let me say, if this council does its job correctly, they're going to tell Western there are things that you're doing that you must stop doing because we're going to let Murray do that. And then we're going to stop Murray from doing something, and we're going to let Western do that. And the basic fundamental test of whether this will work or not is, will these institutions understand that they're better off to bind themselves together as a family and support the pressure on all of the people to support the funding. In the past, what we had is that we had 8 institutions fighting to get a bigger bite of the same apple for themselves. And that fight got so bad that politicians didn't want to get into it. The net result was that higher education didn't have an advocate. The actual funding, the actual appropriation to education in Kentucky from 1990 to 1996 went down in terms of real dollars, not even taking into account inflation. And of course, you know that. You've gone through it on this campus, where reduced appropriations or appropriations inadequate to cover cost of living increase have caused you all to have to cut back, much less be able to expand and meet the growing needs of a growing society. So the overall objective is to let us all stay together and advocate for a bigger apple, and then trust that we'll get our fair share of that apple. That competition should come within the council. But once the council determines who should be doing what, then everybody ought to get together and let's say, well, let's have a bigger state appropriation. You know, quite frankly, more money from the state is one of the things that you all need. But using that money to serve the people is also another thing that the people are going to expect. Appreciate the comment, question. Yes, ma'am. Well, let me say that is an area that we're going to have to look at because the state does fund that through the CLEP tax. There's an insurance tax that funds a lot of that emergency training and fire training. So that is a unique area of what I call post-secondary technical education. That is a particular subject that we will have to address and will have to be addressed through the legislature. In general, those issues should be addressed by the council. When I first started studying this, as I saw a problem, I said, we'll pass a law to solve that problem. But after about 3 or 4 months and talking to people like Jim Ramsey and Ed Ford and other people associated with higher education, they convinced me that the solution was not for we politicians to write a detailed recipe of how you all run an institution. We can turn 9 institutions loose with general guidelines and broad autonomy and expect them as mature institutions to be responsible. We can't do that with 176 local school districts. We have to have a detailed prescription of how that we expect them to operate our schools and how that we expect them to expend our money, which 80% of the money is state money. But we can have more autonomy with local institutions, and that's what we intended to do. That's a long way from the question you asked, but we will specifically address that before the legislature. One more comment.
Repeat the question for us.
Repeat the question. Oh, well, the question, I beg your pardon, the question had to do with how would we handle emergency medical service training and fire department, fire personnel training. That is a program that is primarily provided through Kentucky Tech. It's funded by an insurance tax, a surcharge on the premium, and so that is a specific area of technical training that the state has a little bit more direct involvement in than most areas of technical training. We'll take one more comment. Yes, sir.
How do you foresee strategic planning of higher education during this?
The question is, how do I foresee strategic planning, which reminds me that I forgot the most important part of my talk. So I do appreciate the question. There's a lot of details in this legislation, but essentially, this is the gist of it, and what no other state has done to our knowledge. We have established 6 specific, measurable, attainable goals to be achieved by post-secondary education in Kentucky by the year 2020. Specific goals, time certain. And we've established the Council on Post-Secondary Education to, in consultation with these 9 institutions, write a specific roadmap on how that we as a society get from here to there. So, specific goals, time certain, specific roadmap with benchmarks every 2 years, unified, 9 unified establishments to one, help write the roadmap. Very important. It is not that some bureaucrats in Frankfurt are going to write a strategic plan. Those bureaucrats in Frankfurt, led by a president of the Council on Post-Secondary Education, are going to provide the leadership where our institutions will look at these goals and say, how can we get from here to there? And that plan will not be ready for the 98th session of the General Assembly, but I would expect by the year 2000 that this plan would be written in time for us to consider it, implementing it in the year 2000 legislative session. And that plan, I would suspect, would have certain specific things that Western Kentucky University should be doing, and that it would be every 2 years. It might be a building here, it might be an electronic thing here, it might be an educational program. I don't know what it would be. But I expect that it would be laid out specifically. And this plan would have a price tag on it. And early in the year, well, actually late in the year 99, as the government begins to prepare for the year 2000 legislative session, that this council, with the support of all these 9 institutions, would sit down with the elected leaders and say, back in 1997, you established goals, and you told us to write the roadmap plan and bring it back to you. Now here's the plan. Now here's what you need to do in 2000, and here's what you need to do in 2002. And if you do these things, you will get, we as a society will get there. Now that's the gist of the program. All the rest of it is just effort to do that. But that's the gist of the program. And the question is, will we as a society be disciplined enough to maintain a commitment for 22 years? And it is incumbent upon the higher education establishment to stay united and push us as a society to live up to our commitment. And if we degenerate into 9 institutions all saying, I'm not being treated fairly, I've got to have more, we're X institution is wasting money and we ought to have some of their money, if it degenerates back into that kind of a situation, then all that we have done will be for naught. Now it's up to us, the leaders, to try to keep that from happening. And it's up to me and these institutions. I believe it is in their best interest to not let that happen. Because if we get our institutions into a fight with each other, we erode the public support for higher education in general. And that's the bigger part of the challenge, is maintain broad-based public support for these 9 post-secondary education. I do appreciate the question. It did allow me to, I would have really, when I started heading back to Frankfurt, and I'd have thought about what I've said to you all, I would say, my gosh, I forgot what I came down there to tell them. So I do appreciate the comment. Again, I appreciate your participation and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Would you like to know who our Board of Regents members are going to be?
Well, let's see. We had Fred Mudge and who was the other gentleman that both of them did not ask to be reappointed? Earl, let's see, who? And they did not ask to be reappointed. So we're replacing them with Lois Gray, who from Elizabethtown, who is the superintendent of the Hardin County Public School System. She's Republican, by the way. And Sarah Hewells from Owensboro, who is a business owner. She's a Republican, I believe. And the president of Employee Assistance Services Incorporated. So I can tell we've made a definite improvement. Anytime you replace two men with two women, you've made a definite improvement.
Thank you, Governor, and come on back anytime. Do you need just 1 minute to stand? Will that help? We're about to enter into one of the most important parts of this program, some recognition of colleagues and some comments about the future. So just 1 minute, not time to go get Cokes, just 1 minute. The comments of the Governor, and I'm going to steal the words of one of my colleagues and yours who, I didn't tell him I was going to do this, so I hope he won't mind, but every once in a while one of you share with me a piece of information that you think I ought to read or that I asked for. And this was one that a faculty member here made a presentation a few years back when the Council of Higher Education met on this campus. And I thought it was particularly appropriate in light of the Governor's comments, because the essence of what it's about, I think, is a chance for us to be preserving what it is that is most important about higher education, while at the same time creating new directions. But I just want to say it to you as a reminder, because it says so well for me what we are as a university, and I think keeping it up front will help us take all of the opportunities in the reform plan and put them with what it is that we do, and look at ways that we will do what we do even more effectively. Let me read it. It talks about the operant views regarding functions of a university. It says, in the historic sense, university is a community of scholars and students committed to providing free exchange of ideas in pursuit of knowledge, something that we have to be. The university, secondly, is an institution of socialization intended to bring minorities and marginalized citizens into the mainstream of society. And finally, university provides students with specialized skills and organizational tools useful in the marketplace. And perhaps one of the greatest questions facing this university and many others in the context of the many initiatives that are a part of the state's reform plan for higher education is how to balance those three roles, how to define our mission in ways that we can do each of those things and do them well, and that there is no question that an educated workforce is a more productive one, and that it is in our best economic interest to educate the populace, and that we would hope what we do makes persons more well-rounded, more creative, more tolerant, more whole. In other words, by continuing to emphasize the primary role of a university, but to consider the context and the ways in which we do it, to do it with greater quality, and with quality being defined, my words, this was not in this person's writing, as both effective and efficient. By continuing to emphasize primary role in seeking and expanding human knowledge, the university can also, at the same time, contribute to the socialization and training of its constituency. In making better and more responsible human beings, we teach our students to participate more fully in the community, including the marketplace. We give them the tools for life. And perhaps one of the greatest challenges that we face as a university, as do all universities, is how to take this mandate, if you will, and put with it all of those things that make a university what it is, a place of knowledge, a place of learning, and for us to be the definers so that we end up not only contributing to the marketplace opportunities for our students, but also that we hold sacred the opportunity that learning in and of itself is something to be treasured, and the cultivation of the human mind is essential in all that we do for ultimately people having the greatest workplace opportunities. With just a few modifications of that, I want to acknowledge Larry Snyder, and I hope, Larry, you don't mind that I quoted from you, but that was part of his testimony to the Council of Higher Education, and I thought he said it well as a reminder for us. There are several things about this assembly that are a little bit of tradition, and we will be attending to one of them shortly. And there's one that I want to do because last year, as a brand new person on this campus, it really did strike me and made me realize something of who we are as a community at Western. We say that we're a special place. We talk about our caring ways. We talk about personal touches. We talk about the rich traditions and values. And we also have very specially a characteristic that a lot of universities don't have, and that is that we have so many faculty who have defined who this institution is and who come here and who stay here and who make it their life's work. Today, many of us have had the pleasure of meeting some 47 new faculty. I believe there are a few more still to come. And it was exciting as we welcomed them. There was an excitement about it, the differences that they bring in terms of being from all over the country and out of the country, and also a sense in all of us of wanting to be sure that these new faculty not only bring the new and the exciting and add to the dimensions of who we are, but that also all of us that are here recognize the importance of helping to give to those faculty some of the richness of tradition, the sense of values, the kinds of things that are part of the history of Western. And so for those of you that are new faculty, and you will identify them as you go to the reception afterwards, they're the only ones who have the non-cheat badges, not the stick-on ones, but the ones with the pins. I hope you will introduce yourself to them. And I hope that for the new faculty, you'll kind of glance around in the next few moments and see something that's pretty astonishing. And that is the richness of experience and lifelong commitment of the faculty and staff in this institution. The President Meredith last year asked the question about how many years people have been here. And if you'll permit me, I want to do that again, because it's sort of like the question of when we ask at graduation each year, how many of our students are first-generation college students, and we find out that 2/3 of them are. What we have is very special in terms of the heritage of faculty who are dedicated to this institution. So for just a minute to get a sense of who we are, those of you that have been here up to 5 years, would you just raise your hands? You can all look around, you don't have to just look forward. Those of you that have been here from 5 to 10 years, raise your hand. 10 to 20 years, raise your hand. Well, everybody who's been here more than 20 years, please stand. Wow. Stay standing. If you've been here 25 years, stay standing. How about if you've been here 30 years, stay standing? Isn't that tremendous? The richness of experience and commitment. How about anybody still standing at 35? Years. How many? 35? 37. Isn't that powerful? Thank you all. Thank you. So for those of you who are new, you're coming to a very experienced faculty with lots of wonderful opportunities to gain from those strong traditions. who have been selected as the University Award winners in the area of teaching, research and creative activities, and public service. We actually recognize many more, including those nominated at the department and college levels. These winners traditionally are formally recognized today. The nominations for award recipients may be submitted by students and colleagues. Winners of the college awards are presented to a university awards committee for consideration, and this committee is composed of 3 alumni, Student Government Association president, one other representative from the Student Government Association, the chair of the Faculty Senate, chair of the Academic Council, and the vice president for academic affairs who serves as chair of the committee. So you can see that it's quite an honor to be chosen from one of these awards, and I'm delighted to present this year's winner to you. Last year I discovered that the job I'm going to go back to as Vice President for Academic Affairs, I got to do half of this and the President did the other half, and so I thought, well, now how am I going to do this year? And since I don't wear a hat, literally, I decided that I would put several of my colleagues to work from the Executive Council who offer and are part of working with me in so many ways. And so I'm going to ask for their assistance one by one. The first award winner that I'm going to announce is for excellence in teaching, Dr. Larry Snyder. So Dr. Snyder, come on up here and let them look at you and make you real uncomfortable while I get to tell them all about you. That's before I told you about him. Dr. Snyder is an assistant professor of philosophy and religion. He's acclaimed by his peers and his students alike as one of our most outstanding faculty. He joined the faculty at Western in August of 1990. He has been nominated 5 of 7 years for his college's Excellence in Teaching Award, and this past year was selected by both College and University Awards Committee as the outstanding teacher for this academic year campus-wide. He said that the receipt of this honor comes as a surprise to him, but to those who sit in his classrooms and those who have worked with him, it is indeed no surprise. Dr. Snyder encourages his students to accomplish things far beyond their perspective of themselves. One student writes, "If it were not for him, I would not even be doing this thesis or pursuing a degree in religious studies." Another writes, "His door is always open. I also appreciate his demeanor. He truly treats all students with respect." And yet another student says, "His character is the epitome of what this university stands for. He loves his field, and he makes students love it as well." One of Dr. Snyder's colleagues says of him, "Dr. Snyder is an outstanding teacher, that rare combination of one who knows his field, is able to communicate it effectively to his students, and to create great enthusiasm for them in the process." Larry Snyder, it's my honor and that of Dr. Jim Ramsey, who will present you with the university's award for excellence in teaching for the current academic year. Michael Seidler, get up here. Dr. Michael Seidler received this year's award for excellence in research and creativity. Michael Seidler is associate professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion. He came to Western in 1986. And during his tenure here, he has attained both a national and international reputation as an outstanding scholar researcher. His colleagues have brought to our attention some of the most significant of his accomplishments. He has published an extensive list of books, articles, and reviews, while still maintaining a heavy teaching load in philosophy, both lower and upper division levels. What may not be apparent to those outside of his field may be the extraordinary breadth and influence of his research. His articles, for example, are placed in a variety of the very top philosophical journals, ones devoted to meeting the needs of diverse scholarly communities. His work is distinguished by 3 earmarks of an elite group of scholars. He has published with Oxford University Press, the foremost press internationally in his field. He is regularly invited to present papers at the most prestigious conferences both in the United States and abroad, and his work is reprinted in the best collections of articles in the history of philosophy, collections that are used as standard text for courses, including those at top international universities. Despite all these achievements, Dr. Seidler doesn't have the slightest hint of arrogance about him. He's accessible to his students, and he's excited with his participation in their education. He can simplify most difficult matter without any slipping into pose of condescension whatsoever. He's confident of his ability, but he bears them with an easy humility of spirit. Dr. Seidler steadfastly tries to integrate his scholarship with his professional responsibilities locally. Not only does he continue to develop new courses for his department, expanding the curriculum greatly, but he also serves on a variety of local community and advisory boards, not only on campus, but in local hospitals. He is asked to serve as an outside reader for PhD students who are doing dissertations in his area of specialty, and in particular, he served in this capacity for schools in both Canada and Finland. He not only publishes with top presses, but he also serves as a manuscript advisory and reviewer for a list of the most prestigious presses internationally. Indeed, Michael Seidler is well deserving of the Excellence in Research and Creativity Award, which will be presented by my colleague, Fred Hensley. When I learned who the award winners were going to be the very next day, I went looking for them, and they both happened to have offices down the hall from each other and didn't have any problem finding them. It wasn't even on a day when I would have expected them to be around. So there's a lot of truth about their accessibility, and the same thing is certainly true about Dr. Erica Brady, who is this year's recipient of the Public Service Award. In August of 1990, Erica Brady joined the faculty of the Department of Modern Languages and Intercultural Studies. It certainly did not take Dr. Brady very long to become involved in the campus, the community, and national groups' activities and organizations. One of her colleagues says of Dr. Brady, her logical mind, her even temperament, her ability to be congenial without losing the sharpness of her insights, and her wide learning make her a candidate for most any committee or task force that one would care to organize. In 1996, just to give you some idea, she was on the Technology and Equipment Committee in the department, an ADA representative, a Teaching and Review Committee. She was on college committees and more university committees that I'm going to take the time to mention. Off campus, Dr. Brady gave 14 presentations statewide for the Kentucky Humanities Council Lecture Series. She also served on the planning committee for a Crossroads conference on the Center for Popular Music at Middle Tennessee State University. She served as planning consultant for the Terra Museum of Art. She also was a part of the Fund for Folk Culture Grants Review panel, the Lila Wallace Reader's Digest Foundation out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she was elected to the executive board of the American Folklore Society. I know indeed that Dr. Brady shows up just about everywhere, because for those of you that had the pleasure last weekend of bringing your lawn chairs and sitting on the lawn over at the Kentucky building, I was surprised when between, there was gospel, and then there were the fender benders, and then there was the bluegrass music, and who was this gorgeous lady with the big straw hat and her wonderful hair plaited down, who came up and served as the sort of hostess for the event, right? And Erica was right in there with that concert and very much at home with it, and just another continuation of all of the service things that she does. Erica Brady, congratulations. I don't know if if it went unnoticed. It probably didn't, but this was sort of an extraordinary year for these awards. We can't figure out yet what happened, but somehow or another, Potter College managed to do an end run. So I congratulate Potter College as well, Dean Lee, and I have already had notice that most of the colleges plan to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. They're welcome to try. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anderson, for your help. There's another group that we want to recognize today for a little bit different reason, and they are distinguished university professors, who are the other four gentlemen sitting on this end. In 1995, the Western Board of Regents adopted a plan that would give special recognition to faculty members who have given long and distinguished service to the university. As a result, a process was established to identify a select group of faculty who met this criterion, long service, distinguished service, and who would be identified as distinguished university professor. Up to 2 individuals a year may be selected, and those selected may hold the status for a period of 5 years. 2 were selected in 1995-96, and last year the initial 2, and this year 2 more distinguished professors were added, so we now have 4 such distinguished individuals. Although each person was recognized at a Board of Regents meeting, we thought that it would also be appropriate that they receive recognition before the faculty as a whole, and we will find a way to do that appropriately in the future. We want to do that recognition today, and also one of the ideas that came about at commencement was that our former president, Dr. Meredith, felt that there ought to be some way that you could figure out who the distinguished university professors were in the processional. So as a result of that, you're going to have a medallion to hang around your neck. And we're also going to give you shortly, it isn't ready yet, a container that will hold it in your office so that when individuals come to your office for consultation or visitation or whatever, they will be properly reminded that you are a distinguished university professor. And we know that that will give you great joy. From the class of 1996, Dr. Jackson, come on up here. Yeah, man of 36 years. Dr. Carlton Jackson. Dr. Jackson is a professor of history, and you're going to help, Jerry? Dr. Wilder, how's this? Has been a professor of history at Western since 1961. He received his undergraduate education at Birmingham Southern, and he holds a doctorate from the University of Georgia. He is known as an outstanding teacher and a particularly prolific author who has published books ranging on topics from Zane Grey to Hattie McDaniel to the Scotch-Irish in America. Dr. Jackson is campus Fulbright advisor, and he has served as a visiting scholar in Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and Latin America. If you are interested in doing a Fulbright, this is the man you need to come and talk to. He remains actively engaged as a scholar and indeed is a worthy recipient of University Distinguished Professor, and we would like to present to you, Dr. Jackson, a medallion. If you see these people without their medallions at commencement, you need to ask them where they are. Next, Daniel L. Ronker. Deborah Wilkins, our University Counsel, will assist. Dr. Ronker is a professor of psychology who has been at Western since 1976, when he was brought here as an experimental psychologist. He received his baccalaureate degree from Thomas More College and his doctorate from Kansas State University. Since coming to Western, Dr. Ronker has earned an outstanding reputation as a demanding but caring teacher, while maintaining a high profile as a productive researcher, particularly in the field of visual perception. He has been repeatedly recognized for his excellence in teaching and research, and he is a fine example of a well-rounded university faculty member. It also is reassuring, Dr. Jackson, for others to know that you might make it before 36 years. We only had it 2 years, but Dan Ronker is a good example that long service and distinguished service can happen to you earlier. Congratulations, Dan Ronker. From the class of 1997, we have first Dr. Gary Dillard. Dr. Dillard is a professor of biology who came to Western in 1968. He holds an undergraduate degree from Southern Illinois University and the PhD from North Carolina State University. Based on student ratings, Dr. Dillard has consistently been found to be one of the most outstanding teachers in Ogden College. As a botanist, his research has focused on freshwater algae, and he has published a multi-volume definitive reference work on freshwater algae found in the U.S. Southeast. He also provides regular and substantial and impactful university and public service. It's my pleasure to recognize Dr. Gary Dillard. Last year was a year of interesting decisions. Potter won 3 awards, and then Ogden turned around and won both of the University Distinguished Professor positions, and both in the same department. Well, the second one, also from biology last year, was Dr. Robert D. Hoyt. Dr. Hoyt is a professor of biology who came to Western in 1969. He received a baccalaureate degree from the University of Central Arkansas and a doctorate from the University of Louisville. He is highly regarded as a biology teacher for both majors and non-majors, and that says a lot. And he has the respect of students and peers alike. He maintains an active research program on the early life of fishes, which has earned him both national and international recognition, including repeated summer appointments at a major research center in Scotland. He is an outstanding teacher, scholar, and a worthy distinguished university professor. Dr. Hoyt. Thank you, Dr. Hoyt. Now, I have just been reminded that I forgot something very important. And the 3 of you didn't say a word. One of the very nice things that comes for the individuals who receive the University Faculty Awards is not only that beautiful silver bowl, but also a small token of financial appreciation. And they weren't going to let me get out of here with it. So, Wendell, come on up. These awards are provided by our University Alumni Association. Would you care to make a comment or two?
Well, it's just a pleasure on behalf of the Alumni Association and the over 60,000 alumni that we have at Western to honor our faculty, and particularly these ones that have won this award this year. So it's our pleasure to present this to the 3 winners this year.
So if you, gentlemen and lady, would come back up again. Dr. Snyder and Dr. Brady, Dr. Seidler. We're delighted to give you your check, and I want you to know this is the first time. Thanks very much to Dr. Ramsey and the people in finance and all over the university. Fred, it almost took an act of Congress, but we have a real live check. It isn't buried inside your paycheck. You know, you don't have to figure out how many deductions were taken out. It's a real live check. So, and it cashes. Congratulations again. You have been patient and courteous and sitting for a long time, and so if we can move right along for just a few minutes more and take this opportunity then to have some good old time socializing out back where all the refreshments are. Lots of things going on at the university right now. Somebody told me that this was going to be a very simple and quiet summer. They were mistaken. But it has been an interesting one. And of course, I know that all of you are looking forward to the next week or so. In fact, next week, when we will be bringing 3 of the 4 finalists for the presidential search onto campus. And then a week after that will be the last one. So we will soon have a new university president. There are some things that I'm sure that all of us will be looking toward with that new president. And if I had to say one thing that's pretty evident that will be at the top of the list, it will be more involvement in strategic planning processes that are going to help us address some of the definitions, some of the priorities, some of the directions in terms of where we're heading. There are also a number of things that are underway at the present time, and I want to just mention some of them to you so that at least you know they're coming up. There are a couple of major studies being done on the university externally. One of them on the university as a whole by a group contracted by our Board of Regents with the intent to provide a helpful external look that will be useful to all of us and the new president as we begin to assess where we're going and strength of where we are and ways to get there. And there will be a similar study looking at the whole of athletics as it relates to our university mission and our future. There also will be some major efforts underway this fall among the faculty in particular to look at review criteria. The governor referred to programs of distinction. Being a program of distinction does not mean that those are the only things that we do with excellence. In fact, if we don't strive to do them with excellence, maybe we shouldn't be doing them at all. But it is clear that we're going to be asked to look at criteria in ways that help us define where we need to be putting resources, where we may be able to shift resources, and how are we going to be what it is that we need to be as a university and want to be. There are some monies that are a part of that new reform package, and we are greatly blessed in having the opportunity to work to get some of the incentive dollars that are there for Western. I think there's about $1.4 million in incentive dollars that will come to us to support outstanding programs, either through direct matching dollars or through our own reallocation efforts. Many of you have lived through reallocation through much of your higher ed career, and if there was one thing that I suspect will be with us, even if this is your first year, I trust 20 years later it will still be with us, and that is increasingly considering reallocation. Are we putting resources where they need to be? Are there places that we need to put them? How are we going to make those decisions? What criteria? I want to say to you that I do not see this as a threatening process at all. I truly do not. And I hope that we can go into it with the idea that it's an opportunity for us to say the best things about us that we want to say and show how good we are at what we do. And in those instances where we may not be as good as we wish we were or think we can be, we can use this kind of analysis as an opportunity, I think, to gain resources in areas where what we need to do matches our institutional mission and goals. There are other things that we'll be looking at this year, one being some element of gen ed. I know the general education's been looked at before and not so long ago revised, but one of the great difficulties is determining the extent to which we can document intended outcomes. Technology will be everywhere we turn. The governor mentioned the Commonwealth Virtual University. Dr. Anderson and I, and especially Dr. Anderson, have had the opportunity, actually we're kind of pleased that we managed to seize the opportunity to help author some of what the regionals and as well as U of L and U of K and the community colleges will be looking at as a template for virtual university in the state. And the way it's being structured is that each campus will be able to get a draft and spend serious review time among the faculty on the campus, trying to help shape what that might look like in the coming year. Deferred maintenance has to continue to be a major challenge for this university. We never, ever sit at the table to look at resources and needs that we don't have to come to grips with the fact that for our university, one of the major challenges is going to be how to manage somewhere between a $16 and $25 million deferred maintenance need on this campus, and many of you could attest to various aspects of that need. There are other kinds of things that are going to affect us this year and probably shape our thinking and our planning. Some of it associated with the fact that the notion that higher education is not necessarily anymore the sole provider of knowledge in much the way that we have been in the past, and what does that mean for the way in which we do our job. Some of it in the fact that what we put in and reporting on what we put in our efforts may not carry the weight anymore that it would carry if we were able to say what were the results. And of course, some challenging even of the way in which we organize our work. It's clear that ways that we do our work and doing them differently so that we are more effective and efficient will be something that every unit on this campus, academic and non-academic, will have high on its agenda. There are some who would question whether there's a magic in the fact that courses meet for 15-minute sitting periods or 3 times a week or 14 weeks or even 3 semester hour units. And you could question some of those same kinds of things in any field. We will be spending time this year looking at many of those kinds of directions. I want to share with you just very briefly a couple of other things. We will be looking at parking on this campus. I've been told that the worst problem on any campus, always, the most controversial one, is parking. One of the things that I discovered from Ms. Wilkins was that as interim president, I had the opportunity on August 15th to sign a continued contract that gives a record the license to come on campus and tow. I did not sign that contract. I instead have met with the Parking and Traffic Committee, who are very supportive and have agreed to undertake in very short order a fairly comprehensive study to use some of their good ideas on what we can do on this campus, not only to have reasonable parking for faculty and staff and students, but what we can also do to do it in a way that does not have to alienate half the people who come to this campus as a result of it. I find it very bothersome to see the tow truck prowling the campus, especially during times when business is to be most lucrative. I know that many of you have spent your own dollars to go down and bail somebody out who got towed. There's no discrimination in our towing policy. We towed senators and mayors and parents and homecoming queens and faculty and people here to hire our students. We absolutely are indiscriminate, but there must be a better way we can do it. Those of you that have reserved parking spaces will find that you still have them, but the towing policy will be enforced a little bit differently, and personal letters are coming to each of you to give you some options on that. I just simply think we're smart enough to figure out another way of doing it without having to alienate half the world. It is legendary now about the towing and parking on this campus, and there must be a way we can improve our image. We say we care, we say we have a personal touch, and we say we are user-friendly. Maybe we can make our parking practices match that. To do new things all the time and to do them differently and better. And so it's only reasonable that we also find ways to provide the support that each of us needs to learn that. I hope that you will take advantage of that opportunity, and for those of you that work with staff, for the first time, we will have an employee training and development program. Within 10 days or so, everyone on staff will be getting a catalog of some 130 hours, and it also provides the opportunity for you in your units to ask for training to be scheduled that fits your particular need. You also know that as a result of the changes in the Reform Act, that there is a new tuition remission benefit plan. You've always been able to get 6 undergraduate hours and 3 hours at Western in any semester without tuition charge. What it means now is that you will be able to get 6 hours per semester for 3 semesters a year at any post-secondary institution in the state of Kentucky. And by the same token, anyone employed in any post-secondary institution in the state of Kentucky will be able to take those same hours with us. So we don't quite know what that will mean by enrollments and dollars, but we think it provides an opportunity. There will be on October 23rd, for those of you that had to bring your daughters to work, if you've got a son, you can bring your son to work on October 23rd, and maybe next year we'll bring them both to work in the same day. Also, in the area of institutional advancement, you need to know that lots of things are going on in terms of looking at new sources of funding that will support the many efforts of this university. The waiting for a new president has caused some of those efforts to pause for 3 or 4 months, but I do want you to know that private giving is up. More importantly, a plan is in place and being worked right now that I think ultimately will enable us in this university to gain the benefits of some of the kinds of private support that we have never really asked for at Western. Universities all over the country with far less to speak about, far less claim to some of the strengths and exciting programs and tremendous achievements that this university has to offer. Many of those universities have found effective ways of connecting their needs with those of alumni and donors who choose to get involved and find it exciting to support what's happening on those campuses. So I'm confident that you're going to see some exciting things happening in institutional advancement that will make a difference in supporting your own work. In information technology, we are expanding every day. The student fee that was added has already enabled that division to move in increasing the capacity of labs. We're also working on other kinds of areas that would enable us to do more in the utilization of those technologies now that our infrastructure is being built. We've had dramatic increases in our interactive television enrollment, and I also know that many of you enjoy the benefits of that technology at home as well. I do. In our student affairs, one of the fun things in this role is I've learned some new things. I didn't know, for example, that our Greeks donated 17,000 hours of community service last year and raised $80,000 for charitable organizations. And I found it exciting, and I find it exciting that Student Affairs this year will be unveiling the plans for the service learning that has been being planned on this campus for some time. Lots of things happening in our public safety department. I told Horace Johnson one day that I read in the paper we were a training site for people who were police officers riding bicycles, and I thought it was wonderful. And I suggested that the Ag School might want to loan our police officers horses, and using the research in New York City for the close personal contact, we could also be a campus unique with police officers on horses. I haven't gotten much positive back from Horace yet. He said it wouldn't be cost saving, and I said, well, that would be okay, it would be personal, and he said, well, they had to figure out the cleanup part of it first, so we will see what comes. And there are many other wonderful things happening, and I've been warned that I'm not allowed to spend this over my share of time emphasizing the academic side. But I want to tell you, I hope you will read the brag sheet. There's also a little red notebook, 3-ring, that each of your deans and department heads have. And what it is a 2-pager that many of you wrote about your programs. I think you would be astonished and excited and so proud to know some of the things that are going on with some of your colleagues on this campus. I knew, for example, already that journalism had won the Hearst Award every year for the last 8 years, and I know that their students have done so many outstanding things. But I didn't know in geography and geology that over the last 10 years, the faculty have made 65 research trips to 37 countries spanning 6 continents, with the students benefiting. And not only that, during the same period in that department, students authored or co-authored 203 publications and made 166 presentations of their research work. I didn't know, for example, that in the physics department, in the past 25 years, 35 of their graduates have gone on to earn doctorates and 9 more of them are PhD candidates. They are making a difference in influencing what's happening in the field through that particular event. I also did not know, for example, that our theater department, I don't watch a lot of television, but I thought, we've got some recent grads in films like Men in Black, Time to Kill, Sabrina, Frasier, Star Trek Voyager, LA Law, Melrose Place, Law and Order, ER, Murder, She Wrote, General Hospital, Wings, and a former grad who's VP of the largest talent agency in the world, William Morris. And I thought, aha, the next time theater asks for any resources, we're going to help them contact those alums, because I bet you they can get lots of support. You might be excited to know that in the College of Business, which took an MBA program that was kind of sitting there, kind of dead, and has moved it in just this past year, so that they have recently dealt with their 200th applicant. Also, when you look at rankings across the board on this campus of journals, I was excited that in both economics and finance department, that the quality of the research publication on our campus exceeds that of any other university in the state and most in the region, except for the doctoral faculty at the University of Kentucky. And I gotta tell you, Jim, when the governor was talking, I really wanted to say to him, you don't have to go that far to look at some points of excellence in research. We've got people here discovering new knowledge, and we've got people doing research here that will knock your socks off. And we probably have more people, more students at this university in the sciences who have the opportunity to participate, actively engaged in research, and be paid as student workers doing it than most universities that you could find around the country. People do not know that about this university. There are a lot of other things. The fact that in the psychology department, for example, in the past 10 years, they've enjoyed 100% pass rate on the national certification exam, and nationally that rate is 70% for specialist degree people and PhD people. Now think about it. We're master's program. We're 100% for 10 years as compared to universities with specialists and doctorates. Other things, it's just like our cadets in our OTC finishing 11 percentage points above the national average at the summer camp practices. It's like the fact that I didn't know that the industrial hygiene option in environmental science in Ogden College is only the 2nd program in the nation to receive full accreditation. We have one of the highest acceptance rates to medical and dental and pharmacy school of anybody in the state of Kentucky and surrounding states. And for example, in ag, we have a deal with Auburn University to take so many students from, or at least allow so many students from the state of Kentucky. In the last 15 years, more students are accepted from Western than any other university in the state of Kentucky. In fact, 1/3 of all the students in Kentucky this year going to veterinary school came from Western. I didn't know, for example, that we have a leaf composting project. And to me, every leaf gathered by this city of Bowling Green, all those leaves are composted at our farm, and it doesn't save thousands of dollars, it saves hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and it preserves landfill space, and it serves as a model where cities from all over the country come to look at it, and it saves money on your and my taxes. It's a way that the research work of this university is giving back. We've got, I could go on. I feel from the eyes in my back I can't say any more about it. I hope that you will take a look in the Red Book. And one of the things we don't do well enough in universities, not just in academics, but in every area, but especially in academics, is that we don't do the kind of job we need to do in helping people understand the impact of our teaching and our service and our research. This is a university in which we're making a difference. All of us are making a difference. And it's a university in which we pride ourselves on who we are and what we do. And it's a university where it's up to every single one of us, individually and together, to find those little ways that are going to make a difference so that our students want to come here, so that they're successful when they're here. It's a university that in the last few months I have found myself thinking of little things that people do that say this is a caring place and a special place. I was walking along in front of Weatherby the other day, and a staff member came by and walked out in the street on the way to work and picking up the paper cups on the ground and in the gutter, just because she said, you know, it doesn't look good there, does it? And it doesn't look good there. I know that recently, when we worked with the Division of Finance and Budget Office to eliminate the $100 fee so that our students wouldn't have to put $100 down to hold their class schedule, and we said, let's see if maybe they want to come to Western enough that we don't need that $100. Let's see if it'll work. And then a few weeks ago, we almost all took ulcer pills because we had 799 students who had not called in to confirm. It's the spirit of Western that made the difference in the folks in admissions and registration and other offices picking up that telephone and calling every one of those students, and I think they got all except maybe 50 or so of them, and personally talking to them and making sure that more than 400 of those students are now in your classes. They are enrolled, they were put back in the system, and they didn't show up here on campus only to find out that they forgot to call back in. That's the touch of caring. It's the thing that caused a staff member in front of Weatherby a few weeks ago to see a mother who was standing there trying to help this kid. He was a freshman, and he had on a suit and a tie, and he was all dressed up, and she was trying to help him put his tie on. And I don't wear a tie, but I know enough to know from my husband it's kind of hard to do this way. You do it this way. And the staff member came by and asked if he could help, and the mother said how frustrated she was. The young man had an appointment in the library he was going to interview for a job as a student worker, and he went in a suit, and he wanted to look his best, and finally the staff member just pulled his tie off and told this kid, stand here, now follow me. And he did this, and he walked him through tying his tie. I mean, those are caring. And just the other day, this letter came to the president's office, and I guess more than anything else for me, it says that who we are as a university and who we want to be is something that every one of us shape every day through our actions as individuals, and yet it's the total of all of our actions that somehow create the Western that we want to be a part of. This letter had on the top, a wedding is a day, a marriage is a lifetime, and I thought that's a strange thing to get. This one came to the president's office because it was addressed to Dear Western Kentucky University. And if you'll bear with me for just a minute, we'll end this meeting and go get something cold. It said, Dear Western Kentucky University, my fiance and I are at a retreat in Owensboro, Kentucky called Engaged Encounter. It is a trip that everyone has to make if they are getting married into a Catholic church. We have all been asked to write someone special that means a lot to us, and someone who had something to do with who and where we are today. I thought of a lot of different people, but nothing came to me as strong as my feelings were to my old alma mater, Western Kentucky University. Western Kentucky University has given me above and beyond anything that I ever thought I would receive in my whole lifetime. The university has given me friendship, love, social skills, and the ability to survive in the real world. I grew up around Western, and my mother has worked at the university all my life, and as of May '95, I completed my bachelor's degree in science. I think about my university every day, and I realize there will probably be no other place ever that will mean so much to me as Western Kentucky University. I just wanted to take this moment to say thank you, Western Kentucky University, for all that you've given me, and I'm proud to be one of your alumni. This wasn't written to anybody. It was written to everybody. It was written about all of us in terms of the little things that we do that make our university what we want it to be and make it a place that is right for our students and for the future of our state and nation and the world. It makes it a place that we're proud to be part of as faculty and staff and administrators. The times ahead in higher education are going to be interesting ones. They're going to be filled with challenges, and I think that most of us that try to think about what's happening in higher education on a broader sense pretty much believe that never before have we been faced with changes that will so profoundly change the way in which we do our work. But it is the most wonderful time to be in the jobs we're in because we have a chance to shape it. It's not like being here 20 years from now or 30 years from now. We are here right in the midst of it. And it's something to reach out and embrace. And there will be difficult times, but there has to be lots of conversation and lots of thinking and a lot of courage to be willing to try something a little bit different and a strong will and determination to keep at it until we are the very best that we can be. And it will also take a lot of trust. It's the kind of thing that you have to trust in the motives of where we're all going. And if we mess it up, then let's drop back and punt again. But together we can do a lot of things. As you drive up this drive out here, there's that big stone thing, and it says the Spirit makes the master. The Spirit does make the master, and the Spirit at Western Kentucky University has to be one of can do. We can do what we have to do in higher education, and we can do it better than other people can do it, and we can do it in ways that make it fun and challenging to be a part of it. And we will have the opportunity to do it with a Board of Regents that I promise you I have come to respect greatly in terms of their commitment, their desire to do what this university is about, and their interest in having us help them understand clearly the path that we need to chart and willingness to support us in getting there. Yes, there will be some hard times and some times that are a little bit shaky. But in the long haul, it's the people that are on this campus who are so lucky to be in positions of getting to shape it. I welcome you back to what I think will be one of the most exciting years we've had, with new president coming on board, with a board that wants our university to be as great as every one of us want it to be and know that we can make it. I especially want to thank all of you who have been so helpful to me, my colleagues who are a part of the executive committee, of the deans, all of you. I've had an interesting summer because I've just learned a lot of things, and in fact I haven't had a summer if you really want to know the truth. But it has been fun, and it has also been good for me because many times some of you have said, can I help? Now, John O'Connor's never going to say that again because the last time he said it, he got put to work. But I think that we have the opportunity to be the kind of family that Western has always said we are. And we welcome all of you who are new. And for those of us that are not new, but part of the fabric of this university, let's go forward and have a great year, exciting time, and let the Spirit be the master. Thank you. Refreshments are in the back.